Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CT Sports Talent Show. My name is Christopher Saunders. I'm pleased to have on the senior quarterback for the Holy Cross Crusaders, Drew Caouette, with me. Drew, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
When we think about, right, how the season's ever so close, you and I were just talking about as far as some of the games we'll be broadcasting on the radio. And I said to you before we started, like, dude, I remember you as a freshman. You came in against Naugatuck, threw a pick. Sure you haven't forgotten. And then fast forward now, heading into your third full year as a starting quarterback. The growth that I've seen on the field and people have been able to witness. I mean, do you believe what you've been able to do thus far, 3+ years with Holy Cross?
If you told me the success I've had with my teammates, I wouldn't believe it, honestly. But thanks to all them, it's been a great 3 years.
When you look at, right, as you enter your senior year, when you came in your freshman year against Naugatuck, right, and you kind of got baptized by fire very quickly, do you feel like that game, when you look back, whenever you finish playing quarterback and you're done playing football, like is that gonna? I understand that the interception and such, not a very fond memory, but do you think that freshman year kind of helped catapult you because you got so much valuable experience early on?
Definitely playing in an environment like that and then getting to play in a playoff game was huge.
Mhm.
Understanding what the postseason was like and playing in big games was definitely important going into my sophomore year and then eventually my junior and now my senior year.
What's been some of the things, dude, during the offseason that you've been, because obviously playing quarterback and Holy Cross has always had a high number of athletic players. Obviously, we were talking about Graves, who, really kind of in his first game last year had a couple tutties early, really kind of showed like, hey, I'm here to stay. I got 3 more years left. Um, how's it been for you as far as putting in that work this offseason?
It's been exciting. The rule change allowing us to practice twice a week is definitely going to help us,
Mhm.
allowing us, to get on the same page with our receivers, understand what we have to do against certain defenses and all that.
When we look at, like, because again, with high school players leave to either go prep or they graduate, that's the biggest thing, right? So it's everything's very fluctuating as far as positions, right? And when
Right.
you look at, I don't know if you've thought about this, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. I talked to Gamby a couple days ago and I made the comment, and I think it's true. You and him are the best quarterbacks in the NVL, and obviously you have the most experience, you being back. I mean, have you thought about that, being amongst the top in the NVL?
Not really. I'm more focused on our team success and what we're doing this season.
Has anybody ever said that to you? Like, hey, you and Gamby or you or whatever being amongst that, has anybody said anything to you like that?
Couple people, but I really try not to focus on those things.
Is it hard to not think about that, or like have you always been wired like that, just not
I,
thinking like that?
I've been brought up from my parents, so it's I kind of tune that stuff out and focus on the team game.
I feel like if you started to get in a certain way, I feel like your dad would be like, he'd give you a little talking to really quick, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I could imagine that. And you know what's funny? Speaking of that, that hit that he had last year against after you guys won the game against Woodland, the hit that he had on one of the coaches, dude, that was epic. I thought he did like a nosedive and took the guy down.
Yeah, I remember him tackling someone after that game.
And I think was it your sister that gave him a high five after when she was on the
Yeah,
field? Was that
probably.
her?
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was the coolest moment, dude. You talk about like a family, like the whole thing was just cool.
yeah.
you know? So going back to you, what's been some of the things on the field that you've been trying to work on with your game?
Uh, Running the ball a little bit, that's not my strong suit, but we have to keep teams honest and then just sharpen the tools for the season with my receivers.
Now, when you talk about running the ball, obviously just showing it, giving the defense something to think about is probably even better than if you just did it once or twice, but if you show at least a little bit, right? So
Right.
with doing that, do you feel like that is something that you can now add as the season goes, or is it still work in progress?
As of right now, I think it's still a work in progress, but we'll see how the season goes, and based on the game plan, we'll see what's called.
Now with the certain amount of pieces that are back this year on the offensive side, one in particular, obviously Graves, I really liked what I saw from the Kraft kid last year. He's a freshman. He can do a lot. Like I know again, high praise comparing him to Legy. Nobody can be Legy, but I felt like there were a lot of attributes. He could block, obviously he can run, he can cut, he can catch the ball a little bit. How does that, as a guy who's now a senior, you were once a freshman sophomore, and you've got a kid like that in the backfield. That's got to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah, definitely having that resource to use on the offense, even when we're throwing the ball out of the backfield,
Mhm.
knowing that handing the ball off is probably going to be a successful option for us is definitely important.
With you being now under the system for now 4 full years, obviously it'll be 3 years going in as the full-time starting quarterback. Do you feel like now, not to say you know everything about the offense, because it's always evolving, right? Especially if they want to, throw in a couple of wrinkles. But do you feel like the language, when you see certain things, you just know right off the bat, even before they finish the play call?
Yes, definitely. That's under the or working under these coaches for so long, I definitely grasp all the things they're saying, and I understand what I'm doing, and our receivers know what we're doing, and it's I definitely understand what we're doing now.
So it's almost like in a lot of ways, you're the extension of now the coaching staff because now you can translate that to the players who maybe are either not strong with the playbook or are new to the playbook. So you can kind of help with that both on the field during practice and also, I'm sure, during times during the game, right?
Right? Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's good to know, man. Now, is there anybody in particular who's been standing out as far as during the off season this summer?
All of our receivers have Kraft looks great. Graves looks great. Everyone knows he's going to be a good player. Nick
Mhm.
D'Amato looks great. Braden Doherty looks good. Gavin Perone comes back. All of our receivers, I trust them. They trust me. We're going to be pretty solid, I think, out there.
How about the Hogs on the offensive line? How's that?
Those are my guys. We bring Chivas back. Obviously, that's a big one.
Yep.
Uh, Jaden Bond, he played both tackle and guard last year. He comes back, and we bring a freshman back at right tackle. So we bring three starters back. That's definitely important
That was
for me. And
Booker, right?
yep,
And now he's going to be on what side, the left or the right side?
I think the right side.
Right side. Now, and that was another thing too, and I mentioned it during when you guys played against Seymour that you guys had a lot of youth on the defensive side, but also to the offensive line. You had some key young players. Obviously, Booker was one of them. I saw him during the basketball season. I remember telling Olson at the time, former head coach, I was like, this kid can move. And again, I didn't see a lot during football because, again, being an offensive lineman, unless it's a run play and you're having to get to the second level, you're not going to see an offensive lineman move like that. And that's got to be something I was telling Bear during games for basketball. Like, you may want to utilize this during bubble screens. The kid can go out and move.
Yeah, he's very athletic. He's going to help us a lot this year.
When you look at the shape of the NVL, Drew, right? When you think about kind of obviously there's years that some teams are better than others. Obviously, you're focusing on yourselves specifically. But looking at what's coming back for teams, have you thought about like, hey, this could be the year? I mean, this could be something we can do. Maybe the NVL is a little down. Have you even thought about that at all or no?
Not really. We have our tough opponents. We open up with Woodland. Obviously, you play the Seymours, the Watertowns,
Yep.
and Sonia, Naugatuck. Obviously, those powerhouse teams. Gilbert. Those are all rough games for us. Those are going to be dog fights until the end.
Mhm.
I haven't thought about it like that really.
The last couple of years, you guys have been in the thick of things as far as being so close, right, to getting to that either championship game, whatever it is. You guys have been so close, and obviously you've come up short. What, like, has there been anything that Bears talked about or you guys have talked about, like, we got to be able to finish, like, we've been so close, we're knocking on the door. We just got to barrel through it now.
Yeah, one thing he says a lot is finish. We haven't been able to the last 2 years, and him and our other coaches remind us a lot about the feeling we had walking up the field at Rockville and at Bloomfield the year before that. A lot of our guys coming back played in both of those games, so we think we have unfinished business.
Speaking of that business specifically for you, what has been, what have you learned from those two playoff games specifically? What have you learned from those?
I learned that it's not easy to get over the hump, but eventually you have to if you want to win a state title.
In those two losses, and I'm sure that both defenses were throwing out different things against you, was there anything that you saw or you could remember from that Bloomfield game and then the Rockville game that you were like, I saw that previously last year? Like, does that make sense? Did you see anything similar with those two?
They were a little different. I think part of that was the weather. We played Rockville in the pouring rain, so they didn't come out and play their normal coverage. I don't think they stacked the box because no one was throwing the ball in that pouring rain.
Hmm. Okay. And what about Bloomfield?
I think they kind of stacked the box a little bit too because Luigi went down obviously, and Marcus was in the backfield, and they knew it was coming.
And you guys gave Bloomfield and obviously Rockville too. I mean, it's not like you guys got blown out. I mean, you lost by only a couple points in both games. And Bloomfield at the time, I think, weren't you leading at 1 point too?
I think we made it 28-21.
Okay. That's what
Yeah,
it
they
was.
were
Okay.
up
So
7 points after being down 21-7 at half or 28-7 at halftime.
yeah, I mean, two teams that are very familiar with getting to a championship, a la Bloomfield winning championships. It's always them and Ansonia and so on. But I mean, when you guys like, I don't know if you and your teammates talk about this, but being as close, it's like you guys can almost feel like you're hoisting the title, right? I mean, that's got to be extra motivation. Not to say that you guys not getting there the last 2 years isn't motivating enough, but just being able to visualize that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we look at it more like, we really want to get there. We don't want to think, oh, we got close. No, we want to get there. We
Mhm.
think working hard this summer and going to practice, showing up every day, being on time, working hard will get us there.
Have you had to, with you being one of the leaders and have been for some time, have you had to kind of like crack the whip at all to certain guys, or has everybody been on the same page this offseason?
Most guys have been on the same page this offseason. Obviously, there's going to be a couple times where you have to lay into someone and be like, hey, come on, let's go.
Mhm.
But most of the guys have been great this offseason.
How have you specifically, men, been able to handle now the not I don't want to say added pressure, but there's more responsibility that guys were looking at you last year and even probably your sophomore year too, right? And now with you being the senior, you kind of add to that as well. How does that make you feel?
It feels good because, you feel like you're, important to people, but, be you, help the younger kids, teach them, and just help everyone around you.
And with this also too being your senior year, I mean, have you thought about like, all right, this is going to be my last off season as a Holy Cross player, my last first game, at some point, your last home game, right? I mean, going through senior night. I mean, have those thoughts kind of crept your mind at all?
Definitely a little bit. Me and my dad talk about it a lot because, that's a special moment with your father on the sidelines. So, yeah, we've talked about it quite a bit.
So what you're telling me is Jim's going to maybe shed one tear, maybe a half.
Maybe half of one.
I was going to say I don't expect a full one. The only time I expect a tear is when you guys hoist the title. I feel like that's when you may see some, but it'll be excitement and not sadness,
Right.
you know? So again, as you head into your senior year, you're going to be facing his defenses. Do you feel like you have a pretty good idea? Because again, it's almost like competition. He wants to one up you, you want to one up him. Have you been able like who's winning that one up right now? Who's winning that?
I personally think I win it all the time because we always have something for that defense.
So if I was to ask your dad, he would probably tell me the opposite.
I think he would say I win it most of the time.
Really?
I think so.
Okay. Well, I'm having him come on at some point. We got to find a day and time to be able to get it going. But I'm going to ask him that same question. I got to see what he says.
Say that again. Sorry.
I said when I'm going to have him come on at some point in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to ask him that same question. So I'm going to see what he has to say to that.
All right, we'll see.
Before I let you go, Drew, and I appreciate you coming on. You and I were just talking about, the potential of you being able to play college football. Obviously, you're a great baseball player as well. Um, how does it, I mean, again, you still have a senior year for baseball. Um, Being able to pick football as your main sport. I mean, I think I asked you this last year, but just refresh my memory. Was it an easy decision or a hard decision to pick one over the other?
Definitely not easy, but growing up playing baseball for my entire life was like, I want to play baseball in college, but then you play high school football, and it's been the greatest thing in my life so far. And I love football, and I want to do it for 4 more years if I could.
What makes football to you? Like, obviously, you love baseball, but I feel like, and just by the way you're speaking, because I saw you smile, football, I feel like has that. It's kind of tugging on you, like it's got you by the ear. Why does it have you like that?
There's just something about it. The people you play with, your coaches.
Mhm.
Obviously, I get to play for my dad. That's super fun. All my teammates, and then there's something we said about playing once a week. In baseball, you play 3, 4 games a week. It's like just another game. You gotta you have all this build up before football games, and that's what I love most about it.
Do you feel like too, and this is just me kind of thinking out loud here, do you feel like also too the questions about obviously your height and being able to play the position as it is for many quarterbacks who've tried to play and not being that prototypical 6'5", 240, can throw it like 150 yards, whatever it is. Do you feel like that is also something too that kind of motivates you? Because again, there's going to be doubters, and I feel like you're the kind of kid that's like, I want to go prove them wrong. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. I try not to think about that. I go play my game.
Hmm.
Let people say whatever they want to say, but at the end of the day, I'll let my game speak for itself.
Before I let you go, Drew, what are some things as far as for yourself that you want to accomplish before your tenure ends at Holy Cross for either baseball or for football?
Win a state title.
That's the only one. That's it.
Win a state title.
Nothing else.
Win a state title.
Okay. I like it. Drew, I appreciate you coming on, buddy. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me.
I wrap things up here in the CT Sports Talent Show. So next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. Enjoy and find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.